Hey guys, it's good to see you from wherever you are on the planet. So thanks for joining me. Today in this video, I'm going to be doing what I originally thought was going to be a regular oil change on this C3 Corvette, but I've decided to not only do the oil change, but I'm going to take off the oil pan, put on a new gasket, and also refresh the old oil pan so that it looks as close to brand new as possible. So this video could take a while, but at the end of the day, it's going to end up with something that looks like a new oil pan onto the bottom of this engine. So stick around and let's get this one started. As it stands right now, I've got the car jacked up pretty high, at least high enough to get in there and do some work. So this Corvette has a blue pan, which is GM blue. So that's the color I'm going to put it when I take it off and repaint it and put it in. If I'm not happy with the quality of the pan, I'll buy a new one. So I will be cleaning this up and then at a later time loosening some of the steering linkages to get that pan down. And hopefully the exhaust is not in the way. So once again, this is a number matching Corvette and it's getting a total underside refresh. So it's going to be a lot of work, some scraping, some spraying, and let's see how many hours and how long it takes to do this. Kind of making myself as comfortable as possible. I've got a variety of scrapers that I'm going to be using, different sizes. And I'm going to be trying it to scrape off most of the dry grease and oil. And then after that, I'm going to try this product, see how that works. And then I also have some orange citrus stuff coming as well, which is coming from chemical guys. So hopefully that will be decent enough quality. So it's just going to be a matter of poking away at this stuff forever, getting as much off as possible. A lot of the oil and junk is centered around the oil pan, so that's why I'm taking it off and putting a new gasket in it as a start anyway. This is a good time to mention that the power steering cylinder, power steering control valve, tie rod ends, ball joints, all the bushings in the upper lower control arms, springs and shocks are all going to be replaced. So look forward to those in future videos coming up pretty soon. Well, the good thing is it's never going to be this dirty again. It's really just around this area and the oil pan, so it's not as totally bad as you would think. I mean, there's a lot to take off, but it's all centralized in one area. That certainly is true. It's not ever going to be that dirty again. So you have to start somewhere, and this is getting the refresh, and it's going to bring this thing back into really decent quality. Quality in terms of look, appearance, safety, and function. I decided to keep the footage of all the cleaning and all the scraping in this video. I've sped up the time lapse so you don't really see it in real time, but I thought it was important that for those of you who are interested in this stuff can see the type of work and effort, time and commitment that it takes to try and get this right. So in most cases, my time lapse are sped up to 5 and in some cases 10 times the normal speed. So process that you see relatively quickly takes quite a bit of time in real life. So if you're preparing for a job like this, be prepared to be scraping and working on this stuff for quite a while. It's worth it, but it's all part of the process of looking after your C3. This is the oil pan here. Before I remove the oil pan, I'm going to drain the oil through this plug here, and I'm going to take the filter off as well, which is this guy there. Once this is empty and the filter's off, then I'm going to take the oil pan off. The size of socket for my drain plug is a 9/16, and fits on there pretty good. This is just a high-speed video of the oil coming out. Takes a little longer at real speed. Removing the oil filter is pretty straightforward. I've got a little plastic cap that fits on it, on the filter. It's just a matter of cranking it off. What you hear there is the oil filter removal tool scraping against the transmission dust cover. All right, oil filter is off. Just gonna stick this back in. The next process is to loosen this joint, add the idler arm, and to loosen this tie rod end here, and that will give enough flexibility that the power steering cylinder will be flexible enough so that I can get the oil pan lowered. So these haven't been off as far as I know, and I'm not going to be putting them back on because I'm going to be replacing every single part of the suspension with new stuff. So that'll be in another video, but it's coming soon. I'm going to loosen these for now, and that will give me enough flexibility and room to lower the oil pan. First, you have to take these cotter pins off. This is an old girl here, so we'll see how it goes. It's not going to be easy. This guy's going to be a little bit easier. That one's out. And let's try this one. This one is going to require a little bit of tapping here. There we go. Those two out. This guy here is using a 3/4 inch socket. And that sucker. Oh, there we go. I was gonna say it's not budging. There's one down. This one, try that. That's 11/16. That's not budging. Oh, there it goes. Nice. You also have to loosen a couple nuts, which are up here on the idler arm. So I'm going to give them a quick blast of penetrating oil and then get to work on those. Spray the idler arm nuts up here. So give those a minute or two to soak. This is a 9/16 long or deep socket that I'm using. It's a pretty tight space. I'm working on the bottom one right now. And I'm going to try the top one. You can actually access the fasteners from the other side of the frame as well, and you can reach down through the hood to get them. I've loosened the idler arm now, and most of the steering mechanism is a lot more flexible, giving room for this to come out of. I'll see if I can separate this. I actually totally removed the bolts for the idler arm. It's important when using this pickle fork not to actually use it as a lever, but just to hammer it in. And the way the fork is designed, it will just pry things open. There. I've got a new idler arm, which I'm going to replace this one with, so no need to put it back in. So that's pretty good. Should give me a lot of room to move that oil pan down, I hope. So the oil pan is this dirty thing from here all the way to the back. And you can see in my case, it's GM blue. So once it's off, I'm going to clean it and paint it GM blue. Or if it's in really bad shape, I'm just going to buy a new one and paint it GM blue. All right, let's go try and get these oil pan bolts off. There's a total of 18 bolts. 14 are the same, and then the 4 on all corners are 1/2 inch, so slightly larger. This removal, I've put the video on higher speed, but I still decided to show it for those of you who may be interested in that process. In my case, it was interesting. All the bolts were relatively loose, so they weren't very difficult to get off at all. And that's probably part of the reason there's so much oil on the oil pan and transmission guard. For this procedure, the suggested way of doing it is to take the 14 smaller bolts out. So those are the bolts that are on either side. After you're done that, you can go around and take off the corner bolts, which are slightly larger. They're 1/2 inch. You may find that the transmission dust cover is in the way, as I did, but I didn't know it at the time, so I took the 14 bolts out and then was getting ready to take the corner bolts out, and then realized that I had to remove the transmission dust cover, which was fine, and I'm good for that. And it led to another project where I cleaned and restored that as well, and I'll post a short video on that coming up. Definitely when you're doing this in real time, you can appreciate why there's 14 bolts plus 4 corner bolts. That's a lot, and it just takes about 10 minutes to get them all out. It's a real pain in the butt. Getting the last 4 bolts out, which are 1/2 inch, a little bit bigger than the other ones. So let's see how that goes. This is when I realized that I can't get those 4 larger bolts off, all 4 corners of the oil pan, so I had to take the transmission dust cover off first. Okay, time to get the big ones out. They're 1/2 inch. This is just going around all 4 corners of the oil pan to get the last 4 remaining corner bolts out. For this job, and for all the bolts, you're going to need to have a ratchet and socket set that has a few extensions, because they're quite high up and you need something that will enable you to reach up to grab those bolts. Okay, all the 18 little bolts out. Still stuck up there. There we go, kind of. Well, sometimes things don't go as easy as you think they're going to go. So looks like this part of my exhaust is in the way of getting the oil pan down. Last time I saw you guys, I was getting ready to take this oil pan off. I had dropped the steering linkages, loosened that up, taken off the bolts for this, and then realized that this Y-shaped exhaust pipe is too close to the bottom of the pan, so it was impossible to get that off. What happened after that was I had to take this Y pipe off from the exhaust manifold. So you could expect that taking this pipe off the flanges with all the heat cycles that went through the flange bolts, it was pretty tough. Anyway, now I'm in the position where this is loose, or supposed to be loose, and I should be able to drop it. So I want to show you the other work that I did. You're looking at the left exhaust manifold flange to exhaust area. I had to take this off, and I was able to get this nut off, but these two, this one here and the one in here, have snapped off. So I am going to have to drill those out and retap the holes, which is fine. The good thing is on the other side, yeah, so these ones came out pretty good. So I don't have any issues with those at all. But what you have to know, if you have one of these Corvettes that has a Y exhaust coming out of the engine and you want to do something with your oil pan, like change the gasket, you're going to have to drop this thing. I may even end up replacing this whole Y exhaust anyway, so we'll check that out. Anyway, let me get back to taking this oil pan off. I'm just in the process here of wiggling the Y pipe off the main exhaust pipe, and it seems to be working okay. I do have to do a little bit of prying and pulling, but I'm getting pretty close to getting things loose and off. Yeah, that was a pretty good feeling to get that pipe off. So it took a lot of work to get the flanges off the exhaust manifold, but it was nice to finally get it off. Well, that was fun. Now we should be able to pop this down, no problem. There we go. Finally. Whoa, that's crazy. Now we have ourselves a project. There is your crankshaft, oil pump, and I'll do a bit of engine clean obviously, but the old gasket is up here and here, so that'll take a while to get off. You can see up here how brittle it is. Should not be too hard to get off since it's so brittle. But you know what? That could have been on for 40 years, 40 something years, so who knows. Everything's looking good inside here though, which is great. Anyway, big job. It's done for now. Let's get this oil pan done. So guys, I'm going to call that for part one of this video. The next will be cleaning it up and a whole bunch more stuff. So let's say that's how to take your oil pan off a C3 Corvette with an L48 engine and a Y flange exhaust system. So it's doable, takes a while. Next step is to clean the oil pan, and I'm going to repaint it this GM blue. If you like these type of videos, hit the like button, consider subscribing, I'd really appreciate that, and we'll see y'all in the next one.